Okay, let's use the template that we created in our resume file. First, we need to link our new style sheet to our resume file. You can copy the code from the layoutstyles.html file, or you can create it from scratch as practice. I'm going to copy the code from layout styles. Then I'm going to open my resume.html file. I'm going to paste it below the other CSS link in the header section. This means that we now have access to all of those custom styles that we created. Now we are going to copy our 5 divs from our layout file and paste them into the body section of our resume file. Take a second to make sure that your code is tabbed over the correct amount. Sometimes it will paste all wonky and it will not be tabbed over the correct amount. Once again, you can highlight multiple lines of code and hit Tab to move them all to the right one space or Shift-Tab to move them all to the left one space. You will receive a grade on the way your code looks, so getting into the habit of formatting your code correctly is a good idea. It will also make your job of finding errors much easier. Bottom line is, if you want to expend the least amount of effort, formatting your code correctly as you go is going to be the easiest thing to do in the long run. It might take you more time and effort now, but it will save you a lot of time, frustration, anxiety, and stress in the long run. So please just do it correctly. You will thank yourself later. Okay, back to the code. Once you have that code pasted and formatted correctly, you can start the process of using the drag and drop method to move code into the correct divs. Let's start with the header. We are going to get rid of the word header and line break it out. Since we are going to be putting content in these divs, we follow the rule from earlier, where we hit enter and have our opening and closing tags line up. We are going to put our top level links in our image in our header, so let's do that. Drag and drop our code in between the opening and closing div tags. Don't forget the image as well. I'm going to go grab our image, and I'm going to move it to above the top links. Okay, you know that you did it correctly when you can see that our div tag is a child of body, so it should be tabbed over to the right once, and then all of our top links and our image are child elements of our div tag, so they should all be tabbed over once from div. Then we see the closing div tag, and it should be to the left one tab from its children elements. In the left menu, let's delete that text by entering down and creating the space to work with. Let's take these on-page links and put those in the left menu. I'm going to delete the extra line breaks we no longer need. Our divs do the job of our line breaks by separating our content from the rest of our content so we can safely delete many of them. We will keep the BR tags that separate our on-page links from each other. Where do you think we should put our contact information? We are going to put it in the right menu. It is small, and that menu is also small. Don't forget to include your p tag that includes your Wikipedia link. Some students may forget that. Here's a perfect example of how when we copy and paste or drag and drop, it will paste our code all wonky. The first line is tabbed one too many times to the right, whereas the rest of the code is tabbed one too many times to the left. It's important to make sure that your code is neat, so let's take a second to fix these. Now let's put our mission statement, our resume information, our empty NBSP tags, and our back to top in the main body div tag. I'm going to take a second to line everything up correctly. Let's comment out those NBSP tags for now. We don't need them in this video, but I will use them in the next video. Now we have this footer div. What do we do with this? A common thing that people will do with this is to put small information about the page, such as your website name, copyright, and your name. We can pretend that this page is copyright. We can make the copyright symbol by using an ampersand in the word copy, and then a semicolon. So I'm going to write www.mywebsitename.com. And then after that, I'm going to put the bar symbol. And then I'm going to put the ampersand, copy, and semicolon. Then I'm going to follow that with another bar symbol. And then I'm going to finish this off with my name, Homer Simpson. I like to make my footer information small and centered and in a font that won't stand out. So I'm going to go to my layout styles, and inside of our .footer custom style, I'm going to add the attribute value pair font size, and I'm going to set the value to 8 pixels. I'm also going to make the color some shade of gray so it won't stand out as much. So I'm going to set color, and then I'm going to follow that with a £sign and all 9s. Next, I'm going to use the attribute text align and set that to center. Finally, I want the footer text to appear a little bit from the top, so I'm going to use padding top, and I'm going to set the value to 15 pixels. This will only apply padding to the top. Okay, let's save all of our files and check our work. That footer is looking great. All of the content is in the correct spaces. That looks great. I can see that the image is getting cut off, so that needs to be fixed. The on-page links are too close to the image, so they will be overlapped once we fix our image. Let's get started on fixing our image. Our image is too tall for the header, so we notice that the image is getting tucked back behind our left menu. That is because the code for left menu comes after our header code. Imagine our code like pieces of paper. You put down a piece of paper that has a header written on it, and then you put down a piece of paper that has left menu written on it. Whatever is too large for the header will be covered up by whatever comes after it. When layers overlap, what can we do to change it so our preferred layers go on top? We don't always want the overlapping to occur in the order we place our content, so we need to add an attribute called z-index. Let's go back to our layout style CSS file. In header, we want to set the z-index to something higher than we set the z-index of our left menu. This is the equivalent of telling the left menu to be a piece of paper that is laid down first, because it has a lower z-index than our header does. You can set these numbers to anything as long as the header is a larger number than the left menu. I'm going to set the z-index of header to 2 and the z-index of left menu to 1. Once again, in our paper analogy, I'm telling the left menu to be laid down first, and then I'm telling the header to be laid down, so the content that is too big for the header will overlap the left menu. This has a predictable issue though. Let's save and check our work. Now our image is overlapping our on-page anchors. What can we do to fix these? Hopefully you thought about padding top, just like we did with our content in our footer. Let's go add that attribute to our left menu. I'm going to put padding top in our left menu, and I'm going to set it to 40 pixels. If you have a different size image, you might want to adjust the amount of pixels you will add padding for. Save that and let's take a look. Now we have another issue we need to address. Our top links are not at the top and it's interfering with our main body content. This is happening because our image is not a block element, which means that it doesn't force a line break after itself, so our links are technically on the same line as our image. We can fix this by using a span tag. The span will allow us to apply a custom style to our links. Let's go back to our resume code, and in the header div, we need to add some empty space after our image tag to work with. Let's add a span tag and then move the links to be inside of the span. Keep the image outside of the span. Let's add a class attribute to our newly created span tag. Let's call this class subheader. Now let's go and create that custom style in our layout styles file. Once we have that style, we are going to use the technique where we use an attribute called float. We will set that attribute to right. Save that and let's check our work. What happened was our span was told to float to the right and go all the way to the right, but stay within that div, and everything else in the div will wrap around this. That is it for this video.